Many celebrate December 25th as the birth of Jesus Christ, but does the Bible or historical evidence confirm this date? Today, we'll explore why Jesus was almost certainly not born in December and uncover the biblical and historical clues about his actual birth. In Luke 2:8, we're told that shepherds were out in the fields with their flocks on the night of Jesus' birth. However, December in Israel is cold and rainy, hardly the time for shepherds to graze their sheep outdoors. Historically, flocks were brought in from the fields by mid-October, strongly suggesting Jesus was not born in late December. This small but significant detail points us toward an earlier time of year for Jesus' birth. Luke 2:1-3 tells us that Joseph and Mary traveled to Bethlehem because of a Roman census. These censuses were typically conducted in warmer months, when travel conditions were easier, not during the harsh winter. Imagine Joseph and Mary, with Mary heavily pregnant, traveling long distances on foot or by donkey in freezing rain. Such a journey would have been unlikely at that time of year, adding further evidence that Jesus' birth occurred earlier in the year. So why December 25th? Historical records indicate that early church leaders may have chosen this date to align with existing pagan festivals, like Saturnalia and Sol Invictus, which celebrated the winter solstice. Saturnalia was a week-long festival marked by feasting, gift-giving, and merrymaking, while Sol Invictus honored the unconquered sun. These celebrations were deeply rooted in Roman culture. By choosing December 25th, early Christians provided an alternative celebration to honor Jesus' birth, redirecting focus from pagan traditions to the light of the world. However, this choice wasn't based on the actual date of his birth. It was a strategic decision to strengthen Christian worship in a predominantly pagan society. Interestingly, the Bible offers us additional timing clues about when Jesus may have been born. In Luke 1:5, we read that Zacharias, the father of John the Baptist, served in the temple during the course of Abijah. This priestly division is significant because it helps us establish a timeline. Historical studies place the course of Abijah's service around May or June. Shortly after completing his service and returning home, Elizabeth, Zacharias' wife, conceived John the Baptist. Then in Luke 26:36, we see another key moment. The angel Gabriel appeared to Mary 6 months into Elizabeth's pregnancy, announcing that she would conceive Jesus. If John's conception took place in June, this places Mary's conception of Jesus around December. Counting forward 9 months from December gives us a birth date for Jesus around September or October. This timing aligns with the Jewish festival season, particularly the Feast of Tabernacles. This festival was a joyous time of celebrating God's presence and provision among his people during their journey through the wilderness. The name Tabernacles is a reminder of God dwelling among his people. How fitting is it that Jesus, Emmanuel, which means God with us, would be born during this sacred time? John 1:14 captures this beautifully, saying, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us." The original Greek word for dwelling is skinou, which means to tabernacle or to pitch a tent. This connection between Jesus' birth and the Feast of Tabernacles reinforces the idea that his birth was likely in the fall, not in winter. The Bible and historical evidence suggest Jesus' birth was likely in the fall, not the winter. While understanding the timing of Jesus' birth is fascinating, the Bible emphasizes something far greater: why he came and what we should truly remember. In his ministry, Jesus never commanded us to celebrate his birth. Instead, he pointed us to his death and resurrection as the cornerstone of our faith. In Luke 22:19-20, during the Last Supper, Jesus instructed his disciples, saying, "Do this in remembrance of me," referring to his sacrificial death. It's his death and resurrection that fulfilled God's ultimate plan for salvation and brought us hope for eternal life. Also, Ecclesiastes 7:1 also reminds us of this profound truth. A good name is better than fine perfume, and the day of death better than the day of birth. While Jesus' birth was miraculous, it was his death that achieved the redemption of humanity. His resurrection is the ultimate victory, conquering sin and death. Without Jesus sacrificing his life, his birth would have been just another birth. By remembering his death, we honor the purpose of his life. It's not about when he was born, but why he came. Jesus' mission was clear: to save humanity from sin and reconcile us with God. The timing of his birth, though fascinating, pales in comparison to the significance of his purpose. He bridged the gap between humanity and God, offering reconciliation and a way back to the Father. By remembering his death, we honor the purpose of his life. It's not about when he was born, but why he came: to lay down his life so that we might live. Take a moment to consider this. How does Jesus' death and resurrection shape your life and your faith? How can you live out the purpose he came to fulfill? Thank you for joining me today. If you found this message insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more Bible-based content. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. What stands out to you about this topic?